Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast, where I am joined by my good friend at the Dire to talk about these truly true role-playing games that we all enjoy.
And I'm joined by my good friend, Nathan Paoletta, to talk about, the same thing. I don't know why I feel like I should have an additional thing.
See, that's your challenge.
That's my challenge.
Yeah, because I say something first, then you have to come up with something creative, while I get to say basically the same thing every time.
Well, longtime listeners can pay attention next time to see if I have anything to add, any value to add.
If you're a real pro, you just come up with a little list of zingers and have them ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Do like a Rockford Files answering machine joke each time.
Yep. That would require even more. I say even more. That would require any advance plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are. Hello.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm okay. We are in the final stages of getting the annual out.
Yes.
It is completed. Digital rewards are out to backers and to patrons.
We're waiting on some proofs.
Yes, and we're waiting on some proofs. And if they look good, then we will order the rest of the books and go on from there. By the time this episode drops, we may be in that part.
Yeah.
If the proofs look good, we will have ordered the books by then. If the proofs require another round of proofs, then we'll still be in that phase. But anyway,
it's exciting. We were doing our little pre-show talk, and we were excited about the initial response of people getting the PDFs, and just people reacting to the things that we put in there that we wanted to see. What's the word I'm looking for? We made things. And when you make a thing, sometimes you're saying a thing. And it sounded like people were hearing the thing we were saying. That's my vague way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, the annual is both a project for just having a creative thing that we work on together that is part of the larger symposium project. But it is also a place where and I think we talked about this a little more, earlier in the show's history, but because it is expressly not making a game, it is making a thing that can be used for other games, which is something that neither of us do very much or at all.
Right.
It became a place where we are carrying on a conversation with these other kinds of products, for lack of a better term. Other things that are like system neutral or system agnostic settings or adventures or whatever. And we found those terms unsatisfactory for what we wanted our thing to be. And so this idea of the system adventurous scenario came to be, and then the tools that we've articulated for making it that, specifically the approaches in the business, people are responding to seeing those. And I think in creating them, hopefully other people will run with it, right?
Yeah.
That's the hope.
We both are from a tradition. I shouldn't say that. I was going to say we're from a tradition that's all about coming up with things and then wanting to see other people make things, but all of them are there's nothing unique about that, so I'm not gonna pretend to, but this is what we're looking for. Hey, we came up with a good idea, we think it'll be useful to you, and hopefully you'll see where that is and run with it. It's exciting. It was a long half year getting to this point, and we're here, and
here we are. We did it, mostly asterisk for this last fulfillment step, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty we're in the phase of this will probably be fine, and we just need to finish executing on mailing books is basically the last thing, which thankfully we're in a position not to have that be I'm not worried about it. We'll get it done. Yeah. What you were just saying about, making things and hoping that other people will, respond to them with their own things. That's something that I will articulate often as, game design is in conversation, right? Where our games are in conversation with the games that came before and are opening up that conversation to the games that will come after. Or at least that's the hope. Well, they always are. We don't have control over how other people respond to them. So they are.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
But then also we hope to generate certain kinds of conversation, right? Yeah. Speaking of games having conversations, one thing I've been thinking about that I want to reflect with our homework for this week is how like batches of games that happen at a time tend to cluster in terms of like having those conversations.
It's clear that they're in conversation in some way. Is that
yeah, intentionally or not. Like this is how like movements end up getting labeled later, right?
Right, yeah.
In the moment there was the label of story games because it was a joke and then a website, but like the idea of what a quote unquote story game is gets defined later as we look back and see the cluster of games that is like, oh, they're doing something in their own similar way. Yeah. So this isn't to say that I have a like, so here's what the games are doing right now. That's not what I have. But what I do have is a stack of games that I've gotten recently that I looked through.
Yes.
Obviously, it's the slant on it is things that I'm interested in. So you know, there's that also. But yeah, it was an interesting little journey to go through my stack of mailers that I haven't had a chance to open and books that have been sitting there where I flipped through it and went, this looks nice, and did not actually read it. So I sat down with all of that stuff and gave it at least a slightly more focused perusal. I wouldn't say I read through every single thing.
Right.
In order to tackle our homework, that is what I did.
Yeah. Oh, we should insert the homework here.
Well, I would say between now and when we next record, which will be a couple weeks, so maybe some more may accumulate. We should do a unboxing homework.
Yeah.
Going through the things that we have received and maybe and kind of talk about like some kind of like maybe themes or something that we're seeing in these recent works that we've been picking up. So it'll be like a little parade of recent work. We can highlight some stuff that people have been doing recently that we've picked up in print.
Oh, okay.
And have that be the homework.
Yeah. I was thinking like recent. Oh yeah, the past 5 years. I could definitely do that.
Year, 2 years, whatever the window is for a recent
acquisition.
arrival, recent acquisition. And we're back. Good catch.
Yeah, I just realized we're talking about it because we were talking about it before the show, but sometimes we forget that there's other people listening in on our hot mics. So I'm going to let you go first with your homework. This is me being the kid that hopes he gets picked last for his book report.
I didn't have a whole lot here. I just had that basic idea. So I'll tell you what I did.
Yeah.
A lot of my stack is coming from this year's Zine Quest because I was more involved this year because I was doing a project. So when I'm running a project, I feel like I have the capacity to also back more projects, right?
Yes.
We all get to hand around the same $5 during Zine Quest. So I was able to do that this year, which was nice.
It's a shame that you can't literally sign that $5 so you can see like who it all went through. And
yeah, so I have a couple things here. I'm just going to do like just basically some shout outs because I think these are interesting games, but not ones that I was going to focus on for the homework. I have here The Crawling Chaos by Mike Hutchinson of Planet Smasher Games. This is a I guess Lovecraftian horror game, which is not my particular interest, but you know, it's a weird horror game of a lone character and then everyone else is a GM. So that's something that I always appreciate, going back to Trouble for Hire and games before. But it also has it has a solo mode. It's more on the like weird end of things and not on the like Cthulhu has tentacles end of things, right?
Right.
So I am interested in checking out the solo mode. I have not had a chance to go through it yet, but it also, like many of these games, uses a deck of cards, which will be relevant later.
Is it use a normal deck of cards?
Yes, like a standard deck of cards.
Yeah.
So it uses cards for the solo mode to get you some prompt, and then the multiple mode is dice. So I don't have anything to say about it in particular other than like it looks cool, great cover illustration. I would like to challenge my preconceptions about I don't like that kind of game when a game that is quote unquote like that does catch my interest. So looking forward to that. I did back this wasn't for Zine Quest, but our pal Tyler over at Possible Worlds Games is doing a bunch of stuff. He's really getting into get a lot of games out by different designers mode this year. And so I backed the first of that project this year, which was for 2 card-based games.
Okay, yeah.
One is Tacklebox, which is by your friend of mine, Jay Walton.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Design Matters booth alum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a surrealist storytelling or competitive party game. I haven't unwrapped these yet, so I don't have anything to say about how they work, but that's the pitch. And then Better Strangers is by is it by Tyler? I assume it must be. Better Strangers Possible Worlds Games. It's a people watching game with card prompts to weave a complex web of histories, motivations, and desires about people that you're watching when you are out in the world. I know the campaign focused a lot on the artists, like the art's gorgeous. It's a lot of RPG world artists as one thing, like more comics world artists, which I also appreciate.
I mean, I don't have the words to describe, but it's a more, I was going to say cartoony, but I think cartoony would definitely imply something in people's heads that's not true here.
Yeah.
But like a more stylized art than Ellie White, the artist.
Yeah, for Better Strangers. And then Tacklebox is illustrated by Patrick Edel.
Oh, that's nice too.
By Jonathan, and also surrealist author James Tad Adcox is the other credit on Tacklebox. So I'm definitely interested to unwrap that pretty soon. And Possible Worlds is doing another Kickstarter right now for another set of 3 games. So I'll put a link in the show notes. I assume that'll still be relevant when this comes out. I have some wrestling stuff. Leafy Dragon Games, Ian Howard 5-star match. It is a solo wrestling game where it's more of a promo, or it's more of a promotion like sim kind of game. Like you're a promoter going through the matches with your performers and seeing whether they live up to their potential, whether they get over, etc. So it's more like a Fire Pro like digital like sim kind of game, but analog. So I'm going to play it soon. I just again haven't had a chance to sit down, see what I can learn for my own purposes, among other things.
Yes, I've been getting the solo game itch lately, and the field is huge right now, and so now I'm like, well, what do I pick? Yeah,
it's almost like overwhelmed by choice a little bit.
Yeah.
I have this great little risograph zine, like pamphlet zine game called Growing Thylacine, which is by an Australian designer, if I remember right, Pidge Sorensen.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Gorgeous.
Yeah, where I was like, this is worth getting the physical one.
Yeah, it's on white stock, and then the 2 colors are green and orange.
Green and orange, kind of orange-yellow. Yeah, looks great. It's a game where there's this creature, the thylacine, that is extinct, but now a new one is being grown in a cloning vat, and in the game...
Always a good idea.
So the game is more on the, I would say, on the lyric kind of end of things, where one of you is the teeth, one of you is the limbs, one of you is the stripes, and one of you is the pouch. Oh. And then you play through a series of dreams that the creature is having as it grows. There's fun. Like a light dice mechanic for like resolving the end of each dream. And then you have an epilogue of when it escapes. So
cool.
Yeah. So honorable mention. I basically just described the game, but definitely looks like it would be something I would be interested to play with like-minded people who want to explore that like kind of dream-like lyric space.
Yeah.
And then the game that I'm going to talk about more specifically is called Night Forlorn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Black Fisk Publishing by Lucas Falk. This one is similar to The Crawling Chaos, where the pitch for it, which is kind of like a Souls-like RPG.
It looks at the cover definitely made me think of Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Or not specifically Dark Souls, but like if you showed me that cover and said, can you guess what kind of video game this is based on? Yeah.
So that's not, a kind of game that I play a lot of or I'm particularly interested in. But what it actually is you're a, Night Forlorn. So there's a single night and you're in this kind of ruined city and you're basically on a quest. And then the gameplay, I think what kind of hooked me into checking it out was the gameplay is card-based kind of procedural generation for obstacles and locations. And that basic idea, I was like, well, I'm interested in that. And like, yeah, the cover art's really good. I mean, the interior, like the art is good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had a lot of success with the campaign, so it's like has these like nice like cover gate folds with like all the reference like play references on them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really nice looking book, etc. So yeah, this is what I want to actually talk about.
Cool.
Again, it's on a sliding scale player wise. You can play it solo. I think 3. So if you're playing with a group, 3 people, I think is kind of optimum. You can play with more and you can play with less, including 1. Mm-hmm. Someone plays the knight. Let me see. There's names for all these things. Yes, this takes place within the withering city known as Burgle. There's 3 roles. There's the lead, so you're playing the knight mostly. There's the narrator, playing the world and facilitating exploration and adversity. And then there's the chorus, which is adding details and mood, side characters, thoughts and feelings, but not actions or speech. So if you're playing with 3 players, those are the 3 roles, and the roles rotate. So if you start as the lead after the first encounter, then that'll pass to the next player. Maybe you'll become the narrator, and then after that, you'll become the chorus. One of the influences here is Lovecraft-esque, and that I think is, you can see that there, which is also actually an influence on Crawling Chaos. So there's a connection. If you're playing solo, you play all 3 of them, and it's like maybe do some journaling if you want. Playing duet, one person is both narrator and chorus, and the other is the lead, and then you switch as you go. Most of the book is charts of things that you are going to get when you pull cards. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of like cool, weird stuff in the charts. So this is, again, a theme that I think I've really been on this whole year, where it's like a lot of the game design is in the cards and the oracles, like what individual things that you pull are and how they interact and how they refer to other things. So there'll be characters in here that are like, they will help the knight if the knight is trying to do this, or like if the knight has already done this, then they like, there's a lot of kind of contingencies for just to see if they come up as you play, which is kind of fun. The arcane gem that came to me when looking through all this is that there's an element of discarding. There's certain things that you do that you will take that card out of the deck and no longer have it be part of the, you know, what's available for future pulls. And I think that's super interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a reverse. I mean, it's not reverse, but it's a deck building element, but it's a deck destroying element, right? Like in deck building games, there's often a thing of discarding or trying to pair your deck. You like build your deck up, and then sometimes you want to pair it back down to keep focus on whatever you're doing. So this game starts with the full deck, and then as you play, there's certain things that are going to pull cards out of it, and then those will no longer come up. And I think that is a fruitful space for playing with a card-based game. Mm-hmm. Not just for discarding and then having it just not be there, but also like you could do something where maybe you keep a card, right?
Right. Like just having the reason for why you would want to discard a card. Yeah. Like aside from just like, oh, I don't want to encounter that again. Because that's largely what happens in these deck building games, is that you have different ways to optimize your win. Mm-hmm. And if you have too many of those going on, you never draw the right, you can't get the right combos going.
Once you have like a strategy, you want to get rid of the cards that don't fit your strategy anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's an interesting space. I like that.
And here it's very thematic, right? Because it's like as you play, there's certain things that will get like destroyed, right? And then they're not going to be in the deck anymore, like that kind of stuff. And the other thing is, it's not a totally like prompt-driven narrative game either. Like you gain experience when you defeat adversaries. Your knight can gain new powers as you play, and then those powers affect like either like giving you a bonus on your pulls, or you get to look at the top of the deck and decide whether you're going to take it or the adversary is going to take it.
Yeah,
a particular draw, like that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. I think that was the other thing that appealed to me, that there is a persistent game element where like your character gets better over time. and it's not a total not a totally narrative situation. You can take wounds, etc. You can die, so you might not get to your goal. Yeah, so there's just something there where using the cards, using these deck building tools in the narrative space, there's a couple things. Yeah, like you said, are you removing cards to, especially when there's a shared deck, right? Because then you're removing cards and that is going to make them unavailable to anyone. So there's an element of like, is this a game where when you slay a foe, then they are no longer in the deck, right?
Right.
Or is it a game where when you complete a specific kind of challenge, then it no longer is relevant anymore? Like you've solved you've performed the ritual that makes it so that everyone can love again. So all the like love-based challenges no longer apply and you discard all the parts out of the deck or something like that. And then that focuses the remaining issues down into the smaller deck.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tangent, but there's a board game. Oh man, if I could remember the name of it. It was published, I think, in Dragon Magazine, or I got it through a box set called The Best of Dragon. It was just like a bunch of board games that Dragon Magazine had done. I don't know if they did it specifically for the box set or not. But anyways, it was a fantasy map. You're going out adventuring. There were no dice, I think. It was just all chits, like little cardboard things that you think. But the encounter system I love, because it's basically you had all the monsters were just these little cardboard things that you stuck together in a pile that you couldn't look at. And then you draw one out. And every monster had like its terrain that it could be found on. And if you pulled out the monster and you were on the type of terrain that it said, you encountered it. Otherwise, there was no encounter. One of the reasons why it was so brilliant is that like it made the terrain so important. Like the worst monster in there was a dragon, and it hung around the mountains. And so we just avoided the mountains if we could, right? Because you just don't want to like encounter. But I could see like a game that does something like that like you start crafting that deck. Like if you draw the monster, you can then decide like to put it back in the pile again or toss it out of the game if you don't encounter it. But maybe they also have like treasure that's related to it too, like, and so you end up like crafting which parts of your world are more dangerous than others. And like if you see your opponent has to cross the mountains, you're like, I'm putting that mountain monster back in. Like, I'm going to make sure, it's worse for you than me, that kind of thing.
There's is it not just the idea of discarding, but of moving, like or deferring, right? I have a choice of encountering it myself or putting it in your deck, or like, or putting it in the,
back in the pile. At
the bottom of the pile. And so once we draw through, it's going to come back, like that kind of thing. Yeah. You could use that for lots of
man. It'd be really cool if I'm on a whatever. This is what we do. This is how we work. It'd be kind of cool if this was done with a deck of cards and each monster had like, say, 3 levels to it, depending on how many times you've gone through the deck. So the first time it acts this one way, and the second time it acts another way. So you can look at it and be like, I'm putting it back in the deck because we want to encounter it on the second round.
Or like, I really don't want to encounter it now, and so I'm putting it back in the deck, and I hope that someone else is going to get it.
Yeah, somebody else gets it. Yeah.
This relates back to my one true game of deck-driven lore. A card comes out of a deck, and it gives you a certain kind of like information, but it's only relevant. That it's relevant in one way the first time you draw it, but it's relevant in a different way the second time you draw it. So where it's like the first time you draw it, it's like, oh, well, this is common knowledge. And then if you draw it a second, and then it goes back in the deck for some reason, then you draw a second time, it's like, oh, here's a secret that only the person who
only you know. Yeah.
Know. I'm not sure how to do that physically on the card, but
you could have an accompanying book.
It could be an accompanying book.
You get to look at page 34.
Or it could be something or there's another deck where it's, because I'm like, no books, only cards.
Oh, right, yeah. Now you draw from the secret deck.
From the secret deck, and like that's where the secrets live. So yeah, like first time you see this, put it on the table, everyone knows that the dragons live in the mountains, and then second time you pull it, draw from the dragon secrets, and the dragon secrets has, whatever.
A secret deck is kind of fun because you can do, like, we're really on a tangent now. You could draw 3 of them and put them out in front of you, and everyone reads them, and then you pick them up and choose the one that's real.
Yeah, the other 2 are like rumors, and then one's real.
Yeah. And then you can tuck that away, and everyone else is like, well, we know one of the 3 is real.
Yeah.
Or you can tuck a number of them away, and they can see the number, but not which ones. So they're like, oh, one of them's a lie. Yep. Or 2 of them. Yeah, that's fun.
So I'll file that away in my growing inspiration file for things for this game that I apparently I'm always thinking about now. So that's how I did my homework. What about you, Epi?
Well, you discovered maybe perhaps a little bit of a trend. Maybe you've discovered just a whiff of the zeitgeist. I was much more inward looking because I discovered that I don't kickstart games that much.
This is a break from the last couple of years, like basically from, pandemic era to a year and a half ago, I basically didn't buy anything. So, I'm not trying to brag. It just so happens that I'm in a position to have that pile again.
There's a few that I'm waiting on. They're not like late. They're just more recent purchases or whatever. And then there's a long list of games that I've got that are from NDP Design, which don't count. We don't get to do each other's games here. But I did get a few. I told Nathan early on, we just have a situation here where we had to move a bunch of stuff out of a room. In that room, there were a lot of books, including my pile of to-read games that came via my mailbox, right? So, like, I have a bunch of physical games that are now hidden in a box somewhere. So I had to, look at the digital rewards and whatnot. And I had to go like a larger spread. So I went down to at the beginning of the pandemic to today. You, for homework, did one of these games, Necronautilus.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I don't remember what episode that was, but it was a while back.
It was the purple and yellow episode.
Yes.
That was the cover colors of our homework. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one I got that is, I believe it's a Forged in the Dark called Brinkwood, The Blood of Tyrants, which I think at the time was sold to me as like Robin Hood's fighting vampires. And I don't want to disabuse anyone of that. I wouldn't necessarily describe, like, your outlaws, your outcasts, vampires are the creme de la creme of society. They're out in the open. They're the rich, and they're just drinking the bloods of the commoners, and it's not there's no masquerade or anything like that. It's just it's set in a fantasy world. They do an interesting, they call it castle punk, I think, or maybe there's a different way that they're spelling castle that is supposed to pronounce a different way. It's vaguely medieval, but we're not going to worry about being historically accurate. And you'll encounter clockwork things, and it's a lot of anachronistic things. Those are possible, and it does. Let's not worry about it, is what they're saying. And punk, because you're in the revolution here, and it seems interesting. I did a bigger peruse of it for this, but didn't dig deep into it because I had a few of them here to go through. Another one that I want to just mention, because I think at some point I'm going to do it as homework for a different thing. But this Tiebreaker from Nick Butler. This one is like a, how does he describe this here? Cinematic tabletop role-playing game system. Like, it's very much influenced by fighting video games, right? Which I know he's a huge fan of. And like, it's a thing that I do want to kind of like really dig into. So that is set for a future thing. There's another one from, I'm assuming, a friend of the show, Keith Stenson's God's Gonna Cut You Down. And this is a Western role-playing game inspired by traditional folk song. I have a physical copy of it.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I have a physical copy. I know it's gorgeous because I saw it, and it's somewhere in a box, and I'm going to wait till I, can get it. But the two that I'm going to talk about most here are bookends of this. One is a Kickstarter that fulfilled either at the very beginning of the pandemic or just before, and I got it to the table during the pandemic. It's like the first role-playing game I played online for a Zoom thing during the pandemic, and that is the second edition of Sanguine Games' Usagi Yojimbo. If you listen to me talk about Usagi Yojimbo, this is not the one. This is the same company, but this is their second edition one. This is a Powered by the Apocalypse version of it.
Right.
I love the aspect ratio. I think it's a square, or pretty close to a square. It's gorgeous. I mean, they've just got like a bunch of Usagi Yojimbo art. Like Stan Sakai is great. There's a lot of neat things in here. You play funny animal samurais. Like that's what you do. Like it's feudal Japan. It has some great sections on just like the different territories and the people that populate it. But just a soupçon of arcane gems here. They have this combat system. It is a Powered by the Apocalypse, so you're rolling 2d6 and you're adding a thing to it. The thing you're adding to it is story, which is like like these points that you gather as you play. I'm trying to remember exactly how you get those points. Story points. You gain story points by advancing the narrative. You start with 0. The maximum is +3. So like in combat, you're not adding like your strength or anything like that. You're adding story. It's a thing that you gather as you go along, which is great to begin with. Like it's the more you advance the story, the better you get at the fight. I like that pacing thing. But the other thing it does that's really great is that like when you fail a combat roll, you miss, and then if your very next move is another combat roll, you get a +3 forward to it. So it's basically saying like, all right, you whiffed this time, but like actually your next hit might be pretty titanic. Like a +3 is a big bonus in a 2d6. So it's got this like, we're not going to sit and whittle away at each other here. If you missed, okay, you missed, but then your next one might do this. All that you need to do. I really can't get too far into like what all that is, because there is like it's a system of a lot of things pointing at each other. Because you make the roll and then it says like you've done a strong or a weak hit or a grand hit or something like that, and then the type of foe you're up against, that means something, and you have to look that up.
Sure,
but it's not as straightforward as like these are the number of points you got to get rid of. But another neat thing that they do in there is you have what's called an event anytime you roll doubles, 1 in 6 chance of that happening. And one of the main reasons for doing that is that instead of you taking damage, you get your attributes impaired, which means when you roll an event while rolling that attribute, something really bad happens related to that, right? Like, so if you're doing it for like, you're doing like an initiative roll, and you roll an event, then that's you stumbling over and tripping because your initiative was impaired. I think initiative is one of them. We're skimming through a bunch of these, but it is, in fact, initiative is one of them. All right. It was a fun game. I ran it for a couple groups in the beginning of the pandemic and really enjoyed it. I think like it's something that I have to revisit again and explore more thoroughly. But then the other one I wanted to bring up, and I can kind of talk about in totality here, is The Price of Coal by Jennifer Adcock. And this is a game about a real-life event in 1920 to 1921, I think, or maybe 21 to 22, but 100 years ago, about a coal miner strike that ends with the U.S. military flying over and dropping bombs and gas on the strikers. So it's a card game, gorgeous cards. The cards are largely this sort of pacing mechanism where you have the different seasons. You start in the fall and then you go to the next summer. I think there's 7 cards in each season. You shuffle them, you pull out 2, and they're each like an event that you encounter. So you go through them in order. And then there's like a card that transitions you between each season. And at some point in the summer, you're going to encounter the Ordnance card, which Yeah, the United States military is dropping gas and explosive bombs left over from World War I on your town.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to have a good ending. It's you know it.
Mm-hmm.
You have this set of characters that are this sort of pre-made cards for like a bunch of miners, and then the family members, and they're again gorgeously illustrated. And you basically go around and you draw a card. It tells you what the event is. It gives you like a prompt and how it, like, you might have to resolve it, like questions you might have to answer. And there's like a lead player who sets the scene, does that sort of GME stuff, and then you play it out. And then when you're done, you move on to the next card. And there's a few other things in there. There's like interlude cards that let you, like, I just need to have a scene between these two characters. You basically play out the tragic last year of these miners, right? Like, it's just a neat way to like take a moment in history and just kind of lay it out for you and get you in the mindset of like what's going on. Get cards like, I'm just going to grab one example here. It's all a deck of cards, by the way. The rules are on the first 13 cards that you draw, so you can kind of just go through reading those. But yeah, there's things like the company store. They've raised the price at the company store. Every other store has been closed. The company controls all the food and supplies now. It was hard enough to feed your families before the price hike. How will you feed them now? Mm-hmm. Great. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah. Tragically pertinent game today. And just like a neat little, lovely, like, just a box of cards, oversized cards. They're a little bigger than normal poker size, but I wouldn't say that they were like tarot size. There's some size in between. Yeah.
Do you have an arcane gem?
I was thinking about that.
One of those. This whole thing.
The whole thing? Yeah. There's not a lot like to separate out of it. This thing of like, here are the events. They're going to happen in a random order, and some of these events might not happen, but you're going to encounter them. And it's not entirely random. Like the summer, like each season has their own set of events, so you kind of know what's coming up if you've played it before, or and it doesn't really even matter but just like having it random within the seasons does a nice pacing thing, right? You can do your escalations how you see fit. I don't remember exactly how it's if it's stated in the rules or the introduction or something like that, because one of the things you're doing is in the early times you hear about other towns and other states that have miners that are starting to organize and unionize. You don't do that right away. You build towards trying to make a union, and then things start to collapse. But I say that's an arcane gem, like this, using the cards as a way of organizing. I know there's other games that have done that, but like organizing your rising tension, right? But I think it's done to really good effect here. And the other arcane gem is just something. I'm going to use the term simple, but I'm going to use it in a very technical term. I mean that like I could sit down with at the table with like my parents and play this.
Right.
Like, it's a very elegant. Maybe is the word I'm looking for. It's a very elegant way to just like, we're going to do a little role play, but it's very focused on this thing. And you can't like Rambo it.
Right. You can't play it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was just because you were mentioning it, I just opened Tackle Box just to see, and it does the same thing where the rules are on like the first handful of cards.
So this gets us kind of to another topic that we're going to talk about. I don't know when this popped up, but at some point we said we should talk about non-instructional text and what it does in your game, right? Like, and I was thinking about specifically, probably the case with what you have there, but specifically the price of coal. I don't think non-instructional text exists in this game. Like the first card might be what's the word I'm looking for? Credits page. I gotta look and see if that's the case. I haven't shuffled them, but I've put them in out of order here.
This one, yeah. So Tackle Box has, the cover card is the credits.
Yeah, that's what,
and has like the cover art. like the box cover, repeats the box cover art. And then there's 1, 2, 3. They're numbered. This is very helpful. There's 8 like rules cards, like they're numbered 1 to 8, going through the premise, setup, characters, fishing, which is what you're doing in the game, the deck. There's a card for discomfort. So there's, kind of like a safety tool situation, endings, and then the last card is begin. And it has a prompt on it. And then there's 3 cards of like alternate rules. And then the rest of the deck are these like surrealist situations and with prompt questions afterwards.
Yeah, and like this deck, they have credits page, rules summary, which is just like a thing you can have out while you're playing the game, and then 13 cards, 12 cards that like describe the rules in enough details that you want. And then there's a set of intro cards that you go through and read them off. There's 4 of them. Yeah, 4 of them. And this is so you understand the historical background of what's happening or whatever, which I think, counts as instructional text. So, I mean, I think part of it is we should talk a little bit about what we mean by non-instructional tests.
Yeah, what is instructional versus non-instructional?
I think these card games, by virtue of their size, they have to be efficient.
Mm-hmm.
They can't wander about. And I think the other game that I had, the second edition Usagi Yojimbo, has kind of a neat counterpoise to that because it has quite a few like pages of that have like text in word bubbles, like from the comic, and the images from the comic, I should say, has got the whole thing. Oh, you know what? This doesn't do the thing that the other ones do. So this is not a good example. I shouldn't have brought it up. But there's other Sanguine games that do these nice introductions that are like, hey, have you ever heard of role-playing games before? No? Okay, here's the thing. Hey, have you ever heard of the topic that this thing's about? No? Oh, here's the thing. Hey, have you ever played a video game? Yes? Okay, well, this is how this is different. I guess it's the what is a role-playing game thing, but it's like set up for different audiences, right?
Yeah, I kind of do that in Worldwide Wrestling, where there's a brief introduction, and I say, if you're already familiar with role-playing games, you can go ahead and start with this section. If you already know everything about wrestling, you can probably start with this section. If you don't know anything about either of these, you should just keep reading.
Yeah.
And part of that for me was both to, I don't necessarily think that this game is going to like teach someone about how all role-playing works, but it's more like I want to acknowledge that people might come to the game from different backgrounds and kind of flag, like, I understand that different people are going to have different levels of exposure to what's in this book. So It's a little bit of a, hopefully I'm telegraphing, like, it's fine if you don't know everything about this thing, because this book has stuff in it for you. And that's also a little bit of like, why is this book so long? It's like, well, because it has stuff for people coming from all these different backgrounds that hopefully to help instruct and educate about the thing. Because like, if you're picking it up because you're a wrestling fan, but you don't know anything about role playing, there's some stuff that you should read in this book that the person who has been playing RPGs since basic D&D, they can skip these couple pages of like, what am I doing when I play a character? Like there's like that kind of stuff.
What I read off earlier was a note to ourselves, right? We're not trying to define what is instructional and non-instructional text, because obviously this sort of stuff is in fact instructional at some point. But
something like the text that's in there that's not, here's a game rule, here's here's how the game is played.
Well, when you think about the types of texts you might encounter in a role-playing, right? You've got like things that are specifically referring to rules, at which I will also throw guidelines under those, under that auspice, like how to play the game. You've got things that are specifically about maybe setting or like the world in which you're playing. Like the Usagi Yojimbo game has a lot of great stuff about medieval Japan in it. Obviously not enough to make you an expert in it, but like get you going, right? Like to get you running. And that's like still instructional but separate from the rules that you need to know or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's text that's just like the really like table of contents, or the index, or like the really utilitarian text, or like the list of backers from the Kickstarter or something. But there's also like, I've always called flavor text. I know that but basically like in Dread, at the beginning of every chapter, there's like a little paragraph or two that's like it's from a horror story. It has nothing to do with the rules. It has nothing to do with like any setting or anything like that. It's just, hey, let's put you in the mood. Mm. And Dread's not the first to do it. Mm-hmm. Like that was a huge thing in the 90s. All the vampire books did it. And,
the huge storytelling system, White Wolf stuff. That's like, that's the thing, right? Like there's enough of it where there's a counter push. Like here's the fiction. Like here's fiction that's in the game, that's from the game world, that illustrates the tone and the mood. You can have a reaction to that and be like, why is there so much of this stuff that isn't like the game?
Yeah.
That can be a preference thing. It can be a skill thing. Like if it is not well-written fiction, that obviously makes you kind of question it more than if it is well-written. So there's that spectrum there. But yeah, I think the one thing is that the transition from the 300-page tome to the zine format of here's the amount of object that we need to fill with game, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think we're on the end of that spectrum now, where it's like, well, that like fiction or flavor or things that are not necessary to here's how this game is played, that stuff doesn't go in the book anymore as text, because there are ways to convey that more with artwork, I think,
right?
Primarily. Yeah. And also a lot of these games, including, so like Night Forlorn, right, is a good example of this, where all of that stuff is in the oracles and prompts and not in a block of text at the beginning of the chapter. So Night Forlorn has read aloud text boxes. So you can like start playing and it's like, all right, read this aloud. Okay, that's what the city is like. And then it's all for setup stuff, but it's like the concept of the game, the aim of the game, the tone of the game, safety in the game, and the city all have text to read aloud for the group. And then the next section is about making your night. And then there's the rules. Here's, draw a card when you do this. Here's what happens when you have adversity or an obstacle. Those are two different things. Here's the rules about ending the game. And that's the first 24 pages of the book. And then the rest of it, so the next 20 odd pages are the encounter oracle list things. And then in there you get the there's an object called the Pathfinder's Lantern, which lets you move cards to different encounters, for example, so you can kind of like see what's in front of you and decide if you actually want to go there. So that is in this world, while there's also a eternal Ankh, which basically lets you resurrect yourself once, which is kind of cool. There's enemies that range from foul rats to flesh rot abominations, which are stitched together from fallen warriors. At the beginning of the game, you establish like who you're there to go after, essentially. That's kind of your goal. So, that could be Nyx the Undying, an imposing skeletal warrior wielding a massive scythe wreathed in green flames. Or it could be the illustrious alchemist Albert, a bloated, grotesque monstrosity, unleashing toxic clouds and vomiting corrosive bile. So that's the world, right? Like the world of the game is in there once you start drawing cards. It's not in text and images of those characters at the beginning of the chapter, like the NPC chapter or something like that.
There's little gray areas there too, because I actually, when we were talking about this, I was thinking, especially when you were like, and a lot of this is now covered by the art, which is very true. Like if you look at the wall of text that was a 90s game versus just like the glossy couple paragraphs and like a lot of artwork on the page, which is the current, I enjoy both. Like
they can both be good, but like the style, like the current, zeitgeist is more in the realm of bullet points with art as opposed to pages of fiction or descriptive text.
Lore.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that like there are these in between ones, like the Usagi one or the Palladium's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, which I think has like an original comic in the middle of it, like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I should pull that out and check it out and reread it. But there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I don't think I had a point there other than to say like that blurs the line a little bit too, because like when you start pointing at comics and start using comics in it, the Bullwinkle and Rocky role-playing party game, well, that one's fun with like a lot of like in-character things being said in the text that just set the mood. But like you do get like the illustrations and characters talking to each other in the bubbles as well. But yeah, I think that like there's neat things to be done. I do like the new trend of like, here's lore, and also this lore just gets unlocked when you get to it, which is very different than here's a book that has all the lore in it, and the one person that read that book is going to now know all these things, and the rest of us at the table are either going to let them tell us how things really are or decide to give up on the canon lore, right? Like that was a thing that happened in my games all the time in the 90s. Like somebody would be more obsessed about the lore than everyone else and would be like, oh, that's not how it works here. That's not how it works here. And we're like, oh, no, don't do that. We're having fun.
I think that delineation that separates lore from the rest is actually a pretty functional distinction. And I think that, we've absorbed that from, again, a lot of video game stuff, I think. But I think there's two kind of things here. One is the idea that, there's the lore of the game, of the world, of the characters, of the events, etc., that you do not need to know in order to play. Right. So there's like a separation there. But also getting into the lore is an activity of itself where you can be into the lore without playing the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's a positive direction of like, you can be engaged with the text without having to be doing the activity of gameplay. And I think that's an interesting space.
Dangerous words. I agree with them, but I'm just...
Well, in a world where, like, we all have more games than we're going to play, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or that people enjoy watching other people play them. Like, that's a reality now. That wasn't the case when we started.
Yeah. So I guess the idea there would be like, so it's not necessarily instructional text in terms of the gameplay activity, but is there instructional text about how to engage with the lore that's in conversation with or in parallel with like gameplay with other people? I'm just putting a big question mark at the end of that whole paragraph.
Yeah. We didn't come to this with answers. If you came looking for answers, we're a symposium. We're just talking about
talking, yeah.
No, I had a thread on the Bluesky about the lore phase in Swords and talking about how that is specifically designed not to fill in the gaps.
Right.
Like, it's designed to leave gaps that you have to, like, explore when you play the game. Like the lore phase, you can't play the lore phase during a game of Swords. Those are the rules. You have to play it outside. And you ask questions and nobody can answer those questions. They can just give you hints that may or may not point to the answer, and that's it. And part of that is because a lot of times the function of lore in a world is to scratch an itch, and I don't want that itch scratched. Like, I don't want you to satisfy yourself and then not play.
You want play to be where the scratching happens.
Yeah, exactly. But that doesn't mean that, like, it isn't satisfying to scratch that itch. Like, I love, the West End Star Wars games, which just had a ton of Star Wars lore that, like, became canon, and then didn't when Disney bought it. But that was fun, right? Like you would buy a supplement not necessarily because we're going to play, but because you wanted to know more about that topic in Star Wars, that kind of thing. I think there's things like using the cards and oracles and whatnot to deliver it is really neat. Is there other non-instructional texts that we're missing here?
There's stuff, I mean, it's still instructional, but there's stuff that I think can be seen as distinct from the game, but still relevant to it. Like, I think safety tools, right?
Right, yes.
A lot of games, including my own, you separate out, here's safety tools and techniques. Those usually live, before you get to the gameplay stuff, because you want that to be front and center for people to know that they're available, that you're thinking about it as the designer, and that there may be content in the game that you just want to flag for people so that they know what they're getting into. Those are still instructional in terms of like, use the X card, use stop, rewind, pause, use traffic lights, like whatever the tools are that you're proposing or that you're implementing. But it is, if you were like, here's the cheat sheet of like how the dice and cards work in this game, that stuff might be like a line of like established safety tools at most. Like, you're not including them in the like instructional procedures of the game.
There's also like, and this is far rarer, but like you sometimes encounter designer notes, right? Like somebody talking about what their intent is with the game and the design, or why they made certain decisions. This
was in some of the ash cans that we've talked about, like have like questions like, hey, if you play, how does this work? Or like, this is a new rule, so make sure that like, so if something is weird, you're going to have to deal with that because it's not play tested yet, like that kind of stuff.
But even to the extent of like, I think like the first Advanced Dungeons and Dragons DMG starts off with like them saying, this is why this book exists, justifying what we now consider a third of the cost of playing. And it's, like, here's a bunch of things that we use to run this game, and here are the guidelines or whatever, why it would work this way, or why we want it to work this way or whatever. Been a while since I read that one, so I don't know if I'm characterizing that one. But there's definitely games going all the way back that are like, here's what I was thinking. And either that's in the introduction or it's near the end.
Or it's like just like an appendix or a postscript or something. Yeah.
And those are fun.
And then the thing that I think led to this question in the first place of us talking about it was like there was some discourse, this is a while ago, but discourse around like the what is a role-playing game text.
Right. Yeah.
With a pendulum swinging from every single game from the, again, 90s storyteller stuff where it's like they kind of had like a boilerplate for it that you'd see in all the games, and it was like, it's like Cops and Robbers.
Yeah.
But the rules tell you what actually happens. You don't just say what happened, like that kind of stuff. And then I think there was kind of a hangover of that definitely into like the early 2000s of like, even if you had a 10-page, narrative dice system, there'd be like a paragraph of like, what is the role-playing game at the beginning?
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And that pendulum also swings to where it's like, why are we putting this in when like we know that our audience is other gamers or other game designers? What's the purpose of it there? And then there's a bit of like, do you use that text to explain, here's what this game is, as opposed to what is a role-playing game? And that's where I tend to land when I want that to be in it, of like, what is this game?
Yeah. There's lots of questions about like what you think your audience is going to be and who you're writing to, right? Like, you don't have to aim big. You don't have to publish a game that's going to be someone's first role-playing game. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Like, you could be like, I'm aiming this at a bunch of people who've played this game, and it's a hack of that, and they know it, and they'll play it, and so there's no reason to do it. But then you might also be like, hey, it's a rewarding experience when you hear from someone like, this is the first role-playing game I've ever played, and you're like, what? Like, what? Why mine? Like, what happened there? At one point, I wrote a game called What is a Role-Playing Game? Back then, I was like, this is it. I'll just use this and point to this and never, write in any text what a role-playing game is. But I've got back on that. Like, that's not my... I used to go very strong one way or the other, and now I'm just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't think you should worry about it being in our text. Like, if you're writing a game and you want to put it in there, go for it. If you're buying a game and you don't want it to be in there, you know how Choose Your Own Adventures work. You can skip that page.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you can do that. We used to write that if you go back to like the 80s and 90s, there's a part in this is more non-instructional text, but it's instructional. At the very beginning, they would say, "Don't read this book in order. Skip around. They'll describe to you how to like look up the topics you want to read."
Yeah. The assumption that you're going to sit down and read it from front to back is definitely something that kind of accumulated over time.
But like you're empowered to skip sections that you don't want to read. I'm just like letting you know that right now.
And also here's the GM section if you're playing, don't read, like that kind of stuff also is, it's instructional, but also more about just, it's more definitional than instructional. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, again, you could like infinitely parse like what is an instruction, what does that mean? But
that's a topic for another symposium.
That's a topic for another symposium. I think we have approached both instructions and non-instructions in this episode, and it's time to wrap up that conversation for now. Here we are again. As always, the Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast is by us. Go us. You can find all of our stuff at unwrittenearths.com, including the annual. So the digital version is available now. If you did not back the Kickstarter, totally understand. Or also welcome, if you came to us after that ran. But yeah, it's up now. It's $10. It has 3 system adventurous scenarios in different flavors and genres, plus the perpetual library adventure map and minigame, plus the phantasmal bibliography of the iconic texts that contributed to this year's annual. Plus great art, if we do say so ourselves.
Yeah, good art.
There's great art and good art. We got both kinds of art in there. There's also the links to the Patreon for this very podcast, but also supporting our general efforts over at patreon.com/unwrittenearths, and join us on the Discord, both to discuss games you're working on, games that you're enjoying, media that you are enjoying, and also join us for Playtest Tuesdays, where every Tuesday night, or at least Tuesday night in our time zone, Tuesday evening my time, Tuesday late night for Epi, we get together and do some playtesting of something that someone would like to try. Our music is by Will Yopes. Thank you, Will. Find Will's games over at goodluckpress.co. Is there anything else? Those are all the things I usually say.
I think so. It sounds like the list of non-instructional text.
Our final non-instructional question, as always, Epi, have we made a game yet?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
This lore-heavy card game is coming slightly closer every episode.